What's up, guys? Straight right boxing talk. Big fight announced this week. One that we kind of knew was coming. Kovalev Ward 2. I'm going to talk a little bit about this, their strengths, their weaknesses, and how I think Kovalev can pull this fight off, as I believe he did the first time around. But Sergey Crusher Kovalev, 31-1 with 26 knockouts, 6 feet tall, 72.5-inch reach. Then you got Andre, Son of God, Ward, 31-0, 15 knockouts, 6 feet tall, 71-inch reach. Last 3 fights, Kovalev beat Jean Pascal January 30th, 2016, in 7. He had unanimous decision over Isaac Chilemba July 11th, 2016. And then that unanimous decision loss to Andre Ward back in November on the 19th. For Andre Ward's last 3, he beat Sullivan Barrera March 26th, 2016. He beat Alexander Brand August 6th. And then he beat Kovalev, controversially, November 19th. Their best wins, Kovalev's, in my opinion, should be Andre Ward. But that being said, maybe Bernard Hopkins, although Hopkins was an old man, but it's a name, might be his most complete win. Went 12 rounds. Maybe when he beat Cleverly for the WBA. Cleverly's now at 175, and he just took the title from Brahmer. So, at least I think he took the WBA off Cleverly, whatever the case may be. Ward's best win now, you would say it's Kovalev. You could throw Carl Froch in there. That was almost 7 years ago. It is what it is. On to their strengths, Sergey Kovalev. He has a great jab, a stiff jab. You could see he hurt Ward with it early in their fight. And he'll throw it to the body, too. He dropped Cedric Agnew with body jabs as well. So he can hit hard. He's got KO power in both hands, and he's very accurate with his power. He also has a very good chin that we've seen so far. His strength and conditioning are definitely a strength, but it seemed like in the Ward fight, he might have gassed a bit late, and that could be due to, Andre Ward's so-called inside game, or, his wrestling and smothering and holding tactics that he uses, which he does successfully. Whether it's within the rules or not, that's another story. But Kovalev also has very underrated technical skill. He's very calculated. There's no wasted movement. He's consistent, and he puts out steady output. He's an offensive-oriented fighter, but he's defensively responsible. He's got deceptively fast hands. He's a brutal body puncher, and he uses feints, and he judges distance very well. You would say another strength is that he's laser focused and confident. He's got a high ring IQ, and he fights to cause damage. He doesn't fight in an amateur way. He doesn't try to, fucking pile up points, which is fine. But this is pro boxing. If you can hurt the other guy and get him the fuck out of there, you clearly want to do that. Ward Kovalev 1 is clearly a perfect illustration of that. On to Andre Ward's strengths. 2009 Olympic gold medal winner. He's got tremendous amateur experience, as we've all heard and we all know. He's an extremely skilled defensive fighter. He has phenomenal footwork. Switches stances. He's a left-handed orthodox fighter, which is somewhat unusual. But because of that, he has a great jab and left hook, because his lead hand is a strong hand. He's also very hard to hit clean. He's never a stationary target. He's also versatile and very adaptable inside the ring. In the Super 6 alone, you can see he fought different ways. He outboxed Mikkel Kessler. He in-fought against Alan Green. And body attack versus Arthur Abraham, were what did the job. So he can beat you different ways. He's got fast hands and effective counter punching, and he has a very high boxing IQ. It seems like he's always a few steps ahead of his opponents for the most part. He's very effective at judging distance, and he's got a strong inside game. He's a bit of a mauler. Does he bend the rules sometimes? Absolutely. We'll get into that later. But he has very good timing as well. And he's overall a very crafty, intelligent fighter. For weaknesses, Sergey Kovalev, he occasionally leaves openings in his guard that can be exposed with fast hands, which Andre Ward kind of took advantage of. He doesn't have overwhelming hand speed. He's got solid hand speed, but he makes up for that with the use of feints and with his very good timing. Kovalev also tends to attack in a straight line, and he can become occasionally a little vanilla and predictable, jab, cross, left hook kind of thing. Defensively, he occasionally jumps back when he's attacked. And Isaac Chilemba timed his jab and frustrated him in portions of that fight. He can also be bothered with body shots, which you can say of most fighters, I suppose, but it's been evident a few times with Sergey Kovalev. He can also be countered, as you saw it a few times in the Pascal fight, but you have to be willing to fight fire with fire. You know you're going to get fucking hit by this guy, so it's a calculated decision. Defensively, Ward can sometimes freeze when he's put on his back foot. He's more of an offensive fighter for sure, but overall, no massive weaknesses in him. But he does, every single fighter has weaknesses. Those are some that I would say Kovalev has. For Andre Ward, number one, inactivity. He's had 6 fights since 2011. He's also not a big puncher at all. He makes up for that with speed and timing, but he slaps way too often with his hooks, in my opinion, which I'm sure they still count as landing punches, but they're not. He hits with the fingertips. He doesn't turn over his hooks very often, actually. He clinches and bends at the waist far too often. Sometimes he does it seems, to avoid getting in exchanges, doing this leaves him wide open to an uppercut, which Darnell Boone took advantage of and dropped Ward on his ass. Another question with Ward is, what's his chin really like at 175? He was hurt against Kovalev by a jab, clearly hurt by a jab, and then he was dropped in that fight as well. Now that's Sergey Kovalev, so maybe that's not the perfect guy to gauge the strength of his chin against, but we still don't know for sure how his overall game is will translate at 175. Clearly, he hasn't lost much, but is his chin up to snuff? In my opinion, Andre Ward also has a pretty serious tendency to fight dirty, with headbutts, elbows, forearms, whatever you can think of. Watch the Mikkel Kessler fight and tell me I'm wrong. At other times, he tends to fight too hesitantly, which was evident even in the most recent fight against Sergey Kovalev. He wasted a chunk of his prime with that lawsuit that he had, which is kind of frustrating for people that were fans of his, because he's still fairly young. Overall, people tend to say he has a frustrating style to watch, but you can't deny the guy's effectiveness. One other thing I noticed, that he does seem slightly more hittable at 175. Sullivan Barrera was able to land on him a decent amount, and Kovalev clearly was as well. And other than those two guys, he hasn't really. Actually, I don't know if he's fought anybody at full 175, but I'm not gonna put too much on the Alexander Brands of the world. How I think Sergey Kovalev wins this fight. Well, arguably, it seems like the majority of people think he won the first fight, and I'm in that group. I thought he won that fairly clearly. Almost. I was actually kind of fucking disgusted when they read those scorecards. I think people tend to like with the Triple G Daniel Jacobs fight. It's you have to be fucking effective, man. It's not. Yeah, it's one thing to be boxing cute off the back foot and looking good, but if you're not landing shots and you're not doing damage or you're not doing more damage than your opponent, then it doesn't mean dick, and that's just a fucking fact. Um, you know, that shit aggravates me. People seem to look at it like it's amateur boxing, but this is the hurt business. This is pro boxing. You have to take into account the damage that they're doing. Who's more effective? You know. Um, yeah, that's a whole other fucking thing I could go on a tangent about. But what Kovalev has to do, first of all, he's got to maximize his physical condition in camp. He can't let himself tire out, or he needs to control the pace of the fight as well. He needs to keep things long. He needs to jab with a vengeance because he obviously hurt Andre with a jab. Everything comes off of that jab. It sets up his straight right and his power shots. So he's got to establish that again. He's got to fucking stick that thing in Andre Ward's face all night. He's got to be creative too. Ward has felt his power now, and he's going to want to avoid that right hand at all costs. So Sergey's probably got to be a little more creative at the same time, but he has to pace himself, and he can't let Andre Ward dictate the pace. And he's got to try to keep Ward on the outside, or at least from getting inside and doing his dirty work. He also should try to punish Andre Ward to the body early and do it often, because obviously he hits a lot harder than Andre Ward. And if anything, that would have Ward tiring out more quickly than him. And then had he done that in the first fight, I don't think Ward would have. And I'm not one of the guys that thinks Andre Ward put on a boxing show the second half, because he fucking didn't. But if anything, had Cove worked the body more early in that fight, Ward wouldn't have been able to even probably go 12 the way that he did. He would have been a fucking hurting unit. But it is what it is. Like I said, I had Cove win in the first fight clearly. Although Ward is a master at adapting, I think Kovalev has the wits to match him. And he proved he's a skilled boxer the last time out. This is another extremely intriguing matchup that both guys seem motivated for. Kovalev especially seems fucking angry and determined to recover what he considers stolen hardware, which a lot of people do. I wouldn't write off Andre Ward, but I believe Kovalev has it in him to right his wrongs from the first fight and win this possibly by a late KO. Let me know what you guys think. Thanks again for listening. I really appreciate it. Straight right boxing talk. I hope you're all doing well.